Hi, welcome back to Camp Chaos. On the last Friday episode, I introduced you to the Kaizen Foam product that I use to organize some of my tools that I use quite a lot around here, and also the Apache line of storage cases, which I'm really impressed with. In fact, I bought another one today. So what we're going to do in this episode is show you how to actually work with this stuff and get the results that you want. So here we go. Dang it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to actually start making a cut here. We're going to take the receiver and we're going to do that cut to give you an idea of how this works. All right, to get started, we're going to use our number 11 X-Acto knife to do the first 1 inch into the material. The reason I like to do this is it enables you to take shallow cuts around there with a point around the corners, and the next pass through you can go full depth and it'll give you a nice smooth radius. So we're going to start up here and I'm going to plunge straight down, and I'm going to go about halfway because I'm going to come around twice. And the key here is to make sure that the handle is perpendicular. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a straight knife and I'm going to do that first cut along these long edges because it will be easier to cut a straight line with a wider blade. Again, you got to make sure that that handle is straight up and down. Okay, so we got the first inch or so cut already. What we're going to do now is we're going to set the depth of the straight cutting blade. And you do that, we want about 1/4 inch sticking up above the foam. And you can see that this boss right here around the stick, that's about 1/4 inch thick. So I'm going to line it up at the top of the box, and you can see the tip of the blade is flush with the bottom there. At that point, I can be assured that I can cut with this tool. Now, what you want to do is you want to lock it with this little thing back here. And it's easier to cut straight up and down if you get that first cut straight up and down. Now I'm getting to this corner right here. I'm going to go to one of my thinner blades. I'm going to go back to the one that I've set to the proper depth. All right. What we do at this point is we get our fingers down in there as deep as we can, and we start, we feel for a joint to be giving, and we gradually work our fingers back and forth between that layer. Looks like kind of a brutish process, and it is, but there you go. Now this is kind of flimsy, but when we put it in the case, that will be supported. So if we look at this, it doesn't look awful. What we're going to do here is we're going to take a screwdriver and take this chunk out of here that didn't come out. Got another one down here. And there it is. That's exactly the way we want it to fit. Unfortunately, I got this little piece down here that broke away, but you know what? We can fix that. This is a great teachable moment here. Duco cement. Okay? Take a little bit of Duco cement, and I think this is kind of like the old model aircraft glue that we like to work with back in the day, and just fit that up there like that. Now the fact is that the bottom of that hole is a little bit rough. There's really nothing we can do about that except a way that I've found that actually really works pretty well. And that is to save this, okay? And what you're gonna wanna do is take your wide knife and slice this top surface off. Okay, and what you can do with that is you can lay it in the bottom of the cutout. And that's what I've done with all of mine, and it makes it look 100% better. And you will glue that down with Duco cement. The problem with that is now your part sticks up about an 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch higher than it did before. So what you need to do is you need to get rid of the same thickness of material as this black piece is. So in order to handle this problem, we need to take a look at a tool that I've developed for this purpose. And that tool is the tried and true Wen soldering gun. Now this probably was built 50 years ago. I think this was my father's. These are available online for, $20 on eBay. And I got this one out several years ago, and I've used it for everything but soldering because it's a pretty heavy duty unit. What I use it for is I take the regular tool off the front of it, and I bend up different shapes out of 96 thousandths of an inch, whatever gauge that relates to, copper wire. I got this out of a piece of heavy duty Romex. Okay, what this thing does, when it gets really, really hot, you can actually melt foam with it. Now, if I just plug this thing in, and wait a while, you can see that the bulb in the front here that's used to illuminate the work is very bright. You can let it heat for a while, and you can see it smoking, and you can see that it melts the foam very easy. In fact, way too easy. You would actually melt not only the surface that you're trying to reduce or smooth, but you would also melt the layer underneath it. So what I've done is I've taken and made this tool. And what this is a dimmer switch, from your dining room. and wired it in between the extension cord, or the electrical cord that I plug into the wall. This gets wired into the black wire from here to the outlet, and then you can change the voltage on it. As you can see, as I change this up and down, it changes the intensity of the light. And what I've already done is I've located, this is the hottest right here just before it turns it off. That's generally the area where I want it to be when I'm cutting. So I'm putting it there. And this could well be a disaster since I'm doing this through the camera, but you can see that it's doing a pretty good job of melting that foam. We'll try going this way. Now, the reason that this is shaped the way it is so that we can keep these legs away from the sides, because if they get close to the sides, it'll melt them too. As you can see, that turned out to be a reasonably smooth bottom, and we could probably go with that, but what we should see right now is that our piece of black foam lays in there nice and flat, and we are back to where we were before with about 1/4 inch sticking up above there. So that's what we want to see. Now, when you got this thing in the box and this thing is held really firmly, it's going to be difficult to try to get your finger behind here and pull this thing up. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a finger hold that will enable us to do that much more easily. Now, what I've got here is a couple of pieces of steel tube, different sizes. And what I did is I put it in the lathe, and I took the boring tool and cut a bevel on the inside, which makes a relatively sharp edge on the outside. Did that on 2 pieces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the larger one here, and I'm going to put it halfway, center it on the edge, and then I'm going to start rotating it. I'm going to hold it in position so it doesn't move. And I'm going to start rotating it, and you can see that it's starting to make its way down into the foam. Don't have to go all the way down, just low enough for us to be able to get a finger in there and pick up the receiver. Handy thing to do. Another thing that we can do with these, being that we want to be able to pull this up in order to get to the layer underneath, we can do the same thing with a larger piece in this area right here where nothing is really going to be going. We can take this and we can just start rotating. Till we feel it hit bottom, which it just did. And it cuts should be a perfect hole. There we go. So that is what we can use to pick this thing up with to get it out. So there it is. That's an introduction how to do this. And it's really kind of fun from this point on. This one's going to be a little bit of a challenge because there's going to be 2 different tiers, one for the bottom and one for the, you notice that we've got basically 2 layers. We've got the top here, which is wider than everything else, and the bottom that actually the bottom is a little bit wider. The motors stick out a little bit farther. So this one's going to be a bit of a challenge, but doable. Now, I played around with the Kaizen Foam storage scenario for my Mavic air drone, and I really like what I've come up with. Let's take a look here. Now, right away, you'll notice that I've got a 3rd piece of foam here. This is the piece of foam that comes with the box. It fits in the bottom. Normally, it's basically provided to provide pressure upwards against the egg crate foam at the top to keep everything from moving around. And the reason that I used this was because I could not come up with enough space to store the multi-battery charger, which is nice to have. You plug in all your batteries and then you go to dinner, as opposed to keeping track of the charging cycle of 3 individual batteries. So that foam goes in the very bottom, and that little bit goes in there. Then we've got the first layer of Kaizen foam that actually goes in the middle. And what we do with this is we store our battery charger and its output cord, the transmitter charger cord, the charger power cord, A prop, B prop, and in the event you ding one up, the little case for the ND filters for the camera goes right there, and then that goes into the case. And that gives us the top piece of foam, and that gives us room for the transmitter, 1 battery, 2 batteries, and then we've got our hanger then for the drone. By the way, if you're going to cut all the way through the top layer of foam, when you pull that top layer out, be sure you pull the drone out first, because it could hang up and then drop out onto the floor, which would be a bad day. So there you've got it. It's been 5 weeks since I shot the first portion of this video, and this kind of looks like the application of the old saying, when you get a new hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. I've added a few cases. Let's take a look at what we've got here. This one, of course, is the one we've seen before. This is the GoPro gear. We use this stuff mostly when we're out on the road. This is a new case. This is the iPhone video gear. I use this one whenever we're shooting here in the shop, so it gets a lot of use. This one we've seen before. This is the drone, the Mavic Air 2 drone case. And I try to burn through a couple of batteries every day, weather permitting, so this one gets used almost every day. This is the legit camera that I have no idea how to use yet, but we'll figure that out this summer. And it's got a shotgun mic, a couple of recorders, and then all the stuff underneath that's associated with this. And then we've got our walkie-talkies, our communication center. 5 walkie-talkies, the chargers, the headsets, push-to-talk switches, that sort of thing. So these things, although initially I kind of did the rest of these because it was fun, you know, once you've got them, you sort of wonder what you did without them. It just lends a whole new level of organization and confidence that you haven't left anything behind. And it's just, I'm really glad that I did this. So it appears that I have room for one more case. No, focus. Now I think that's going to work just great. Grab the case, put it in the car, and go. Assuming, of course, that you've remembered to keep the batteries topped up. Now, if you want to see more of these how-to videos, and maybe you're curious about some of the things that you see around here in the shop, let us know down here in the comments. And like us, subscribe to us, because that's how this YouTube thing works. And follow us on social media. And we'll see you the next time on the Camp Chaos Chronicle.